So that was crazy there for a second, but it'll be okay. We're good. Buckle your seatbelts. We have lots and lots to cover. I think you're going to learn a lot, which is good. We are, as we just said, be prepared to participate. We're going to do some activities and things like that. We'll keep microphones muted for the most part, just because there's so many people. But if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we can call on you and kind of do it that way. There are nonverbal feedback icons. So if you click the participant button at the bottom of the Zoom window, it'll just say participants. If you click that, hopefully most everybody will have these nonverbal feedback icons at the bottom. So you'll have a raise hand. I don't have that one because I'm a host, but you'll have yes and no and go slower and go faster. You'll have these right here. And so I'll use those throughout the session to kind of get a quick read, you know, to see if anybody has any questions and stuff like that. You'll be able to use those with your students when you're using Zoom in the same way, just to kind of get a quick read, to make sure they're paying attention and things like that. So that is why we have you make sure that you know where those are. And then type in chat if you have any questions, and I'll get to everything as soon as I can. And if there's anything I can't answer, I'm going to share my email address. You can email me and we can connect that way. So on we go. We're going to get straight to it, I think. Yep. So these are our objectives for tonight. By the end of the session, you should be able to do these things. I'm going to have you read through those on your own and then give me a green check whenever you're finished. I see those green checks coming in. I love that. So whenever you ask your students to read something and kind of check in when they're done, or maybe you're going to do some sort of demonstration, and so you want to make sure that somebody, you know, everybody has the application opened, you can use a method like this. You can say, you know, open your, or give me a green check whenever you have your calculator open, or something like that. I'm a recovering math teacher. So it's just one of the ways you can make sure everybody is with you before you move on. So there's that. But anyway, those are objectives. We're going to learn lots of cool stuff. If you have questions as we go along, like I said, just throw them in chat. And, oh, I did it too fast. There we go. Okay, so look at this poor girl. She's ready to bite her pencil in half. And she says, I just can't pay attention, right? The nonverbal feedback icons, Tom has a question already. Great job. So nonverbal, they should be the same on the iPad. I don't know where they are, though. And so, but yes, they will have those. I'm pretty sure they're in the chat panel the same, but I'm going to keep a note of that. And I can check that out, and you can email me afterwards if you can't find that. But I know that they are there. I just don't know where they are. So we can come back to that. But here's this poor girl. She cannot pay attention in her class. She's trying, right? So give me in chat some of the reasons or some of the distractions. Like, what are some reasons that students kind of drift away during a class? Oh, too much info. Excellent. Exactly. And then the ones that I usually see, kids, pets, right? Exactly. When we're working from home, I have 2 dogs of my own. You might see me do one of these, like somebody will walk up to me and I'll be trying to pet them just for a second so that they walk away again. And so even when you sign up for a class that you want to take, I've done this myself. I want to be at whatever I sign up for, but something happens. I get a notification on my phone, somebody comes to the door and things like that. Totally normal. But what you have to do is kind of build in these things that draws the attention back in. And so that's what we're going to learn how to do tonight. So we have tech issues, external distractions, reading text. I know. Those phones of ours, how about it? I don't know what we did before our phones. I don't know what I did before my phone, and I'm supposed to be a grown-up. sometimes not being involved, you got it. Having somebody be a talking head, that's exactly what we're here to prevent, right? We don't want you guys to be talking heads. We want you guys to be drawing those students in. And all of the things that I'm showing you tonight can also work for meetings, right? Meetings with coworkers and things like that. It doesn't have to be just used for students. So good job. Thank you so much for chiming in there. I appreciate that. The way we're going to do this, you can think about the types of Zoom tools split up into two ways. Think about them as interaction type tools and then collaboration type tools. Interaction tools are kind of lower if you think about the Bloom scale, kind of lower on the Bloom scale. You might be trying to get students to remember things or list things. You're sort of transmitting that sort of baseline information. It could be stuff about the syllabus, right? That's not critical for learning math necessarily, but I need them to know that stuff because if they don't, they're not going to do what they need to do in the class. They're not going to do well. You get the idea. Collaboration, on the other hand, is kind of the more the sort of the higher end of the Bloom scale, right? So they might be applying something, they might be critiquing or evaluating, or they might be, working in a group to create something together. The interaction stuff is what we're going to cover tonight. And then the invitation isn't gone out yet. It'll go out on Monday morning that there'll be another 3 webinars or meetings or whatever you want to call them next week on those collaboration tools. And so look for that on Monday and we'd love to have you back. So definitely sign up. So here's what we're going to do. This is our roadmap. We're going to start with basic interactions. And I love Zoom, so I'm talking about Zoom. But if you already have something else that you use at your school, you might have Collaborate in Blackboard. You might use WebEx or something like that. These tools specifically won't be the same, but you'll be able to think, okay, I need to find something where I can have them do some quick feedback. Or do I have an option for breakout rooms and things like that? So you can transfer this knowledge. Again, this is about Zoom, but you can use it in any of the other platforms as well. So we're going to start with microphone and sharing your screen. Just some quick tips on that. You might know how to share your screen. I'm sure you do, but I'm going to show you some cool stuff that you might not know, and hopefully you'll learn a few things. And hopefully, if you know some stuff, you'll share some stuff too. And then for interaction, we're going to talk about those nonverbal feedback icons again, and also how we can use chat for interaction. We'll talk about chat for checking for understanding, and then also polls. I love polls so much. And they were really interested in polls when we did this last night, so I think you guys will be too. And then during that collaboration session, we'll be talking about more chat. You can use chat for so many things. That's probably, one of the best tools. You can use private chat to have 2 students work together. You can use whiteboards to have a group of students work together and kind of annotate on the same screen. And then you can use breakout rooms to simulate like a small group type activity. So again, the collaborate stuff, that's next week. What we're going to concentrate on is the interaction stuff this week. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is using your microphone. Okay, so microphone. Audio quality is important. I was on a meeting the other day and there was it wasn't an echo, but it was just like choppy. It made it hard to concentrate. Again, even though I wanted to be there. So imagine if I didn't want to be there, what kind of impact that would have. So just think about that. Make sure your audio is as good as it can be. You want to use a good microphone, or you can use a USB headset like I have. The reason to use a headset instead of the built-in microphone in your computer is because by having this, I think it's called a boom, and I forgot to look it up today. By having this boom here, it actually will pick up my voice, and it sort of like only picks up on the side that's toward my head, so it doesn't pick up as much of the room noise. And so even though I'm in a decent sized room and I have hardwood floor, so it's kind of echoey, it usually sounds like better than it does whenever I just use my computer microphone. So just think about that. If you don't have a headset, they're pretty reasonable, $25 or $30. We use Logitech ones at my department. And so just something to think about. Sometimes we have one laying around. Your kids might have one from gaming or something like that. You could hijack one of those. I bet they're not using a $25 one for gaming though. I bet they have a really nice one. So you can think about that too. You want to be able to check your own sound and then help students with sound too, because sometimes you're going to have to help them. Like they're going to be like, I can't hear you or whatever. So you kind of have to learn both ends of it that way. And then the last thing, and I have to admit, one of the people that I work with always preaches about turning off webcams. And I just assumed he was crazy. I didn't, I mean, I'm sure I sort of believed him, but I never had the experience where that really made a difference. And so that same meeting I was in the other day where the guy's microphone was choppy, somebody said, hey, your microphone's choppy, turn off your webcam. He did, and his voice was clear as a bell. And so I think what happens is, and this is just from my non-technical side of that, is there's only so much like upload speed. And so by turning off of his webcam off, it made it a more clear path for his voice to come through. So if that happens to you, turn it off. I love to keep my webcam on. I want to be able to see people. I think it's important for them to see us. It gives more immediacy and more personality and kind of like closeness, if you want to call it, to the class. But if the difference is between that and not hearing you, then it's okay to turn your mic off sometimes. I mean, your, what do you call, your video cam, your webcam off sometimes. Another thing you can do is make sure that you upload a picture. I'm gonna turn off my webcam for just a second to show you. So I have a picture uploaded so that if I do have my webcam off, people can still see my picture. So that's like the next best thing to being there. It won't be just a blank screen with my name on it or something. And you can do that on the Zoom website at zoom.us. You can sign into your Zoom account and you can upload that on the profile tab. So anyway, another thing to think about. As far as checking sound goes, anytime I start a meeting, I want to check my sound to make sure it's okay. And so you can even see on the bottom of your screen right now, you'll have a mute, unmute. That's the first icon in the bottom left. And then on that same button, there's like a little up arrow there. Let me grab my annotation tool so I can have a little highlighter so you can see it a little bit better. So I have that little up arrow. If I click that, this top section is different microphones that are connected to my system. The middle section is different speakers. And then the one thing I want you to be aware of for next time you have a meeting, we can't try it all together right now, but I'm going to show you what it looks like just so you know. But if you test speaker and microphone, it'll kind of run you through a little setup so that you can hear what you sound like, so that you make sure that you're coming through clear to your students or whatever. So I'm just going to click that and show you what happens. Oh, I'm clicking the PowerPoint screen. I guess I have to actually go over here and click it on my real on my real Zoom window. So I'm going to click test speaker and microphone. Okay, now it's hard for me because it's playing a sound in my ear, but it'll play a sound in my ear. And if I can hear it, I say, okay, great, and I can click yes. If I can't hear it, if it's coming out of my computer and not my headset or something like that, I can use this drop down arrow and I can choose one of the other speakers. That is the right one, so I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna say yes. And then it says it's testing my microphone. And what it does, it plays it back to me. And it plays it back, and I'll be able to hear how that sounds. If I think it sounds good, I click yes. If not, I use my little drop down and I choose one of my other options. So that is the one I want. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to say yes, my speaker or my microphone sounds good. And then I'm going to say finish, so to be all finished. It's just a way for you to check your sound without saying, hey, how do I sound? Can you guys hear me? That kind of thing. So it's just an easy way to check. So I always start like that. Zoom is pretty good once you set up your sound of automatically recognizing it every time. But, you know, if maybe it's a new class or, you know, the first class of the semester, or maybe it's an important meeting and you want to make sure that it's going to be the way you want it to be before you start, you can use that to do that. So that's an important thing. If students say they can't hear you, they can't see the slide, anything like that, this is a good rule of thumb. If only one person says it, so if somebody says I can't hear, I'll say back, can you guys hear me, to see if everybody else can hear. If everybody else can hear, it's the student, right? It's probably the student. If nobody can hear, then I know it's me. And so that'll just help you about what you need to check and what you need to fix. I can't tell you how many times if somebody would say I can't hear, I would be checking my own microphone and stuff like that. Do that extra step and check with everybody else. And then if everybody else can't hear, then start checking your own stuff. So that's just a rule of thumb to think about there. Marlene said about, oh no, wait, Catherine said, there we go, about annotations. I'll show you that shortly. The annotations tool is on your, actually, I think I have it turned off right now. Yeah, I'll turn it back on a little bit later, but I'll show you where to find that. It's under View Options at the top of your screen. And then how did I share the second screen? Well, I can choose which screen to share. I'm going to do screen sharing next, and I'll show you how to choose that, and we can go from there. But I think what you were asking is, how did I drag this over there, right? So if you share a whole screen, right, a whole monitor, then I can drag things onto the monitor like this. If all I did was share my PowerPoint, even if I dragged something in front of it, you wouldn't be able to see it because all my computer is broadcasting is that PowerPoint. So I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so somebody's asking a question about the mobile version. So with the mobile and the iOS or the Apple, iPhone version or whatever, what you should do is just tap lightly on the screen, and then that usually shows all the controls. I'm not sure which side sound is on. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which side sound is on, but if you tap it, it should show those different controls across the bottom and the top, and then you should hopefully be able to find it there. All right, moving right along here. So I showed you how to check your own audio. Now we have to know how to check student audio, right? So I need to make sure. So maybe if somebody's making some noise and I have to, stop that noise or whatever, what I can do is on the participant panel, I can hover over their name and I'll get some options. Let me show this to you live. So there's my participant panel. And so I'm going to just hover over. So I'm going to hover over, and you'll see when I hover over, I get some extra features there. So I could unmute, I could say more. I could, under the more, let me click that, and I can chat with that person. I can ask them to start their video, different things like that. So those are some things to keep in mind when you are having to deal with students. So if it's a single student, you hover over the student and you click mute, unmute, whatever you need to do. If you need to do everybody, because maybe it's a large class, you don't know where the sound is coming from. Maybe, you hear just background noise, you're not sure where it is. You can go down to the bottom here and say mute all. And so that way I can mute everybody at once. Now watch what happens when I do this. I have a window that pops up. It pops on my other screen because it thinks it's hiding. It's like doing me a favor and I'm not being displayed. But it says mute all current and new participants. And then it says a checkbox, allow participants to unmute themselves. If nobody is being unruly and I just want to kind of stop the background noise, I'm going to go ahead and let them unmute themselves when they want to so that they can talk. If I feel like somebody's making noise on purpose or whatever, I could uncheck this, and then they would not be able to unmute themselves until I changed that setting again. So if somebody, and it doesn't even have to be anything malicious, right? It can be somebody just has some background noise, and for whatever reason, they don't, maybe are not completely skilled and don't know what they're doing, and they keep unmuting by mistake. And so that's a way to take care of that. I'm going to leave this for now, though. Just going to say, I don't want to unmute you guys. You guys are doing a great job. So that's how you do that. So again, one person you want to fix, hover over the name, and then you can make that change. Everybody's making noise down here, go mute all. Another thing, some other options you have down here at the bottom of the participant panel, if I click that, I can do some things. I can unmute people. I can allow them to rename themselves if I want to. I'll talk about this one more next week with breakout rooms, but maybe I have different teams. Or maybe I have in each of the breakout rooms, maybe they're going to talk about a different author. And so I want people to name their author, their favorite author. So they could actually rename themselves. So I'm going to go up here and do it to myself. So there's my name, Lea Rosenberry. I'm going to go more, and I'm going to go rename. So I could actually change that, and after it, I could put, who's my favorite author? I don't even know. I'm going to go the other way, favorite subject, math. So I would put math after my name. Now I know it's hard for you guys to see. Let me make this bigger. So now I have math after my name. So now whenever I'm putting people into breakout rooms, my instructor would know that I wanted to go to the math room. So it's just a quick way to kind of like let them make a choice so it's easy to kind of identify who's who. If you're having like a group sort of meeting, and so you have like a bunch of classes meeting together, you could have them put their teacher's name behind their name so that you'd know what class they were from or something like that. So that's just something you can use that for. Go ahead and close this, move this out of here. And on we go. As far as communication best practices, generally students want to do what we want them to do, right? The trick is we have to tell them what we want them to do. So if you're going to be teaching virtual classes like this, it's a good idea to decide how you want people to communicate. Is it okay with you if they use their mics? Would you rather they use their chat? Do you want them to raise their hand first? Like kind of set up the rules, how you want it to go. So you set those ground rules, and then you tell them what the ground rules are. At the beginning of this session, and you guys are all grown-ups, right? I had a little session guidelines slide. So that's a good thing to create. And it just is a little bit of, like kind of like, try to stay muted, and hopefully you're going to pay attention and that kind of thing. Just some friendly reminders at the beginning. If you're going to be meeting with the same students over time, they're going to learn those rules really quickly. But it's still a good idea just to remind them once in a while. And it's okay to repeat stuff like that. I mean, that's how they'll figure it out. So, so yeah, just like I said, make those choices, if you want to call it that, and then make sure you let students know. Okay, voice check. Be careful of your tone, right? You want to be friendly and personable. That doesn't mean that you have to be happy and perky. It just means you want students to know that they can approach you if they need to. As far as pitch goes, you don't want to be monotone. I think somebody mentioned that in the chat about why people get distracted is because it's like blah blah blah, and so when you do that, like if you start talking faster or slower or raise your voice or something, those small things draw people back in. So that's a really good thing to remember. Same thing with using loud and a soft voice. Sometimes if I'm zoning out, if you want to call it that or whatever, and I hear something different, even if it's softer, I'll be like, what just happened? And I'll like pay attention to it. So that's something to think about. And then the rate. Make sure you're going not too fast, not too slow. This is the one that people say they struggle with the most, is too fast or too slow. So just, be careful, practice. If you're nervous, kind of be conscious of that and try to slow down, that kind of thing. So we're going to do a little tiny activity right here. It was sort of on the fly that I did it last night and I liked it. So I'm going to do it again tonight. So here's what we're going to do. I wouldn't normally set this up like this. So it's not completely perfect, but I still want you to kind of see what's going on. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here. So let's say tone, right? I want you to think about which one of these things is your biggest challenge, something that you're concerned with. And it doesn't mean you're really concerned, but like if you have to worry about any of these, which one would it be? So if it's tone, right? I'm just going to go right in order. If it's tone, I want you to give me a green check. If it's pitch, I want you to give me a red X. If it's volume, I want you to give me a go slower. And if it's rate, I want you to give me a go faster. okay? So just right in line. Tone is a green check, pitch is a red X, volume is a go slower, and rate is a go faster. Now, I would never do this on the fly with students, only because I'm sorry, Megan. So at the bottom of the participants panel, so look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you should have a participant button. If you click that, you should have those feedback icons at the bottom of your participant panel. If you don't, it means they're not turned on in your settings, and we can go back. I can show you at the end how to find those settings and turn those on. And if we don't have time for that, I'm going to share my email. You can shoot me an email. But what I wanted to show you here, and this is kind of what part of what we'll do later too, you can use those nonverbal feedback icons is a quick, what you should be able to see on yours is just yours, but you won't see the numbers up here, if that's what you're asking, Tom. You won't see these numbers up here. It's a quick way to do a poll, right? So maybe I didn't set up a poll in advance and I want to do a quick poll, and so I can ask my students to do a check mark like this. So this tells me that 5 people are concerned with tone, 5 people are concerned with pitch, 9 people are concerned with volume, and just like usual, 32 people, which is usually, it's always the majority of the people, are worried about rate. So maybe I'm at the end of class, I have time for one more example. I don't have an example, I don't have time to do both examples. I can let students vote. And then that way, I'm not, you know what I mean? It seems more fair. Like I'm doing what most people want me to do. And so students are more forgiving about that. So you can use it kind of like as an informal thing if you want to. Oh, Tom only has the blue hand. Okay, I got ya. So that means we have to turn on your nonverbal feedback icons, and I can show you that at the end. Yep, that just means they're not turned on in your account, so we can turn them on at the end. And yes, you can do anonymous polls, but they don't have to be anonymous. I'll show you that when we get to polls. So anyway, that's how I can do that quick, just quick check-in to see how people are. Now, if I wanted something more concrete, I'm going to use polls. We're going to go over those shortly. But for right now, this kind of gives me a quick, overview to make a decent decision about, what I should do with class. Yes. Okay. So Kim says, will students answer questions by going to the participant box? Exactly. So they'll use the participant panel as well. You'll train them to click on their participants, and they'll see them there just like you do. Exactly. And so Tom, I'm not sure what you're saying. So Tom says, if I can see them in participants, if you can see them, you should be able to see them. I don't know what you're saying. I apologize.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can see them in the participants box, but the only one I can see next to my face is the blue hand. Is that normal? Like I can't see the red X. I click the red X and then nothing appears on my face.
There it is. Oh, it's not on your face. It's on the participant panel. See right here it is.
Oh, I see. Thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah, no problem. Yep. Perfect. So that was good. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So then after I do my little poll and I'm good to go, I am the only one, a host can click clear all. So I can click clear all. Now we're ready to start fresh, and I can do another one if I want to. So that's just how to get some quick information, like I said. So that was all the stuff about sound and your voice and your microphone and stuff like that. The next thing we're going to talk about is sharing your screen. Again, you guys have probably shared your screen before. If you've used Zoom, you've probably done that. But I bet there's a couple tricky things that you could learn right here. So let's take a look at screen sharing. So when I share my screen, I'm going to use that green button at the bottom of the Zoom window. And so if I click that, I will get a pop-up or a dialog box from Zoom. The top row up here is all of my device-based items. So if I have one monitor, it'll be there. I have 2, so there's another one. I also can share a whiteboard, or I can share from my iPhone or my iPad. The second row and beyond, those are all the things that are application-based. So if I want to share just a PowerPoint, right? Not anything else, just my PowerPoint, I could click and choose my PowerPoint from the second row or beyond where that is. Now remember what I said though, if you share only a PowerPoint and you drag something in front of it, nobody's gonna see that. Nobody will see what you drag in front of it. Even if you put something smack dab in front of it and hide the whole thing, nobody's gonna see that. They'll keep seeing the PowerPoint. So if you think you're gonna share, you wanna share more than one thing, like I might share my desktop or my PowerPoint, and I might wanna show them a calculator, and I might wanna show them something inside the learning management system, then I would choose my entire desktop. So I'm gonna choose my desktop up here. The next thing is, if you're gonna be sharing sound, maybe if you're gonna be showing a video clip, definitely check the two boxes down at the lower left there. Those boxes let Zoom pick up the sound from inside your computer. I don't know if you've ever been in a meeting or a web call or anything like that where somebody showed a clip of a video and the sound had to get picked up through their microphone. And so it just never sounds right? It just is not loud enough, it's just low and things like that. What those two buttons do if you select it is it lets Zoom pick up the sound straight from your computer. So just like the sound is coming out of your speakers, the sound will also go through Zoom and go out to whoever is on the other end listening. And so it's just a really cool thing. Now, here's the trick though. Any sound from your computer will come through. So if you have a bunch of notifications and things like that, they're gonna hear those too. So make sure you sign out of your email or anything else that you want to before you use that option. So that's just something to think about. You're seeing the voice check slide. Are you guys seeing choose what to share? Or are you seeing voice check?
Choose what to share.
Okay, so Michelle, you might have to refresh or something like that because other people have moved on and can see the new slide. And so troubleshooting, see that? I checked with you guys to make sure, yeah, no problem. I checked with you guys to make sure you could see what I'm seeing, so then that way I know that Michelle needs to refresh. If you guys all would say I can't see what you're saying, then I might have had to, reshare or something like that. I have an excellent question in the chat. How do I stop students from sharing their screen? So as a result of that Zoom bombing and the craziness that happened when we first all went online, Zoom put in additional security features. This security button is just know where it is in case you ever need to use it. If I click my security button, I have options on there that I can use to keep students from being able to do stuff they're not supposed to do. So I can uncheck screen share, and so that'll not let any participants share. So if I don't want students to share, I can do that. Then if I reach a point in my class that I do want somebody to share, maybe we're gonna share different PowerPoints, or they're gonna share a project or something like that, I could just quickly turn that on, and then they would be able to share. And then when they're done sharing, I could go like this, I could turn it back off again just by clicking that button. So those items are there. I can turn on or off share screen, chat, renaming, unmuting, and then also annotations. And then there's other features there too we can talk about a little bit later. But that's how I make sure that students can't share. There's also a setting in your global settings in zoom.us that says who can share when the host is sharing, and you can say no one. So that way, if you're sharing, nobody can ever interrupt your share. Okay, so that's another way that you can approach that. And so Abraham says, our university does not allow screen sharing by anybody except the instructor if you need to share. Yeah, that's another option. So if you wanted to make it so nobody could screen share, totally works. And then if you did want a student to be able to share their project or something like that, you could make the student a co-host. And the way you do that, actually I can't show you this because I'm only a co-host, which is fine. But the way you do that is you hover over and you go more. And when you're the host, one of your options will be to make someone a co-host. I don't have that right now because I'm a co-host, which is, That's the way it works. But you'll have that option over here if you want to make somebody a co-host, so then they can share their screen and present their project or something like that. So excellent. I told you guys you'd be chiming in with helpful things, and so there you go. Is there a way to refresh, reload without leaving the meeting? Zoom is really good about reconnecting. I think if you hit refresh, you should not, like it, I don't think you'll have to start completely over again if that's what you're asking. If the screen is too small, okay, at the top of your screen right now, and this is for everybody, I'll show you how to do this just because it's a good thing to know. You should have in green, I think it is, it'll say you are viewing Lea Rosenberry's screen. And then right beside that, you have view options. On that view options, you should have a Zoom or is it called Zoom? What's it called? Okay, somebody's nodding. Thanks, Pamela. So it'll have Zoom, and so you can make it either fit to the window, or you can make it so bigger or smaller. So you can actually zoom in or make it smaller so that it'll fit your screen nicely, or so that you can see. Zoom ratio. Thank you so much. Perfect. Great. Somebody says they don't have the security button. If you don't have the security button, that means your Zoom is not up to date, and you should update Zoom, and then you'll have all those new features. You should update every once in a while, pretty frequently actually. I'd say every 2 weeks at least. Zoom has been putting out new features and kind of bug fixes and things like that a lot since everything started with COVID. And so they're just making little tweaks to make our lives easier. So definitely make sure you do that. Okay, so when I choose my sound, I just click to share on the other side of the screen there. And then once I share, I'm gonna show you what happens. My menu sort of pops up, okay? So it sort of floats, and then I have this more button right here. Let me show you mine. So here is my menu. So this is my floating menu whenever I'm sharing. And so you can see I have new share if I wanna share something else. I can actually pause my share. So if I'm looking for something and I can't find it, or I know I need to look and I don't want to make a like I don't want to, maybe I want to look in the course and I'm afraid I don't want my students to see other students' information. So I could go pause share, and I could do things in the background, and then I could resume share after everything's all calm again, and they would never know that I was crazily looking for something. So you can do that. There is the annotation button. I have annotations turned off right now, but I'll turn those on shortly. And then I have remote control. We'll talk about that one in a second. And then you always have a more button in Zoom. Zoom does you a favor and sort of condenses your menu to whatever size you have your screen. So I have a more button so I can have other options. So I can have allow participants to annotate. I have show names of annotators. And so I have some different options there. I also, you'll see I have my Zoom window kind of tiny. I have that because I have some other stuff arranged on my screen on the right, on my second monitor. And so I also have a more button here. So watch what happens when I open this. More buttons will pop onto my window, right? So more buttons are popping on there. And after a while, I don't have a more button in here anymore. And so what I'm trying to say is Zoom does you a favor by condensing things, but it also causes me to have a little mini stroke because I think, oh no, where are my polls or something like that. If you're ever missing anything, do not be concerned. Just click more and those options will be there. Okay. All right. Let me put that over there. If I do a new share, I could just share something else. That's all. So I could switch from my screen to a whiteboard or something like that. Yep. Okay. And then I don't know what happened, but my little mouse spotlighter just stopped. It's just on the screen there for some reason, and I don't know why. Here, let me choose something else. There we go. See if it'll come back. Okay. So that is the deal with screen sharing. Now, there are kind of some alternatives you can do while you are having a class if you don't want to be the one who does the whole class, right? It mixes things up. It grabs people's attention again if you let other people do some things too. So you can use actually the remote control function if you want to. What remote control does is it lets you give somebody remote control so they can click around on your screen. So again, I'm a math teacher. If I wanted somebody to demonstrate how to do something on a calculator that I have on my screen, I could click that remote control and I could let somebody else, they would actually be using their mouse to like make the clicks. I can take that control back at any time just by shaking my mouse. So I don't have to worry about them clicking something they're not supposed to as long as I don't walk away and not pay attention or whatever. So that's one thing you can do. You can also have students share their screens. We talked about that already. Or if you have like a co-facilitator, a co-instructor, you know, if it's a regular meeting, maybe just a coworker, you can have them do some demos too. And so that is a way to kind of mix things up a little bit. You know, there's actually a couple really good calculators, and we can talk about this later if you want to. I usually use web2.0calc.com in my lower level classes, not my graphing calculator type classes, but and I'll actually put that in chat really quick. I just like it for a bunch of reasons. I think you'll like it if you check it out too. One of them is you type things in and it displays it in real math. So students have the ability to see if they're like, is the exponent where an exponent goes or did I do something wrong? So anyway, so that's why I like that. All right, so that's about it for screen sharing and for talking about your microphone. So that was the kind of intermediate, or I'm sorry, the basic stuff. Let's get into the intermediate stuff, which is sort of exciting. We already looked at those nonverbal feedback icons, just kind of doing a sort of a quick introductory type, low stakes type poll, if you want to call it that, where we can ask a question. Again, I would probably, like what I did with you guys, I said, oh, green check for this and red X for this and stuff like that. I wouldn't do that on the fly with students. I would definitely give them more guidance than that. But you know, just something to keep in mind. So let's talk about polls. Yeah, only the hosts and co-hosts have the security button. You're exactly. You won't have it. I'm sorry, I should have said that. Couple different reasons, couple different things. If you're not up to date with Zoom 5.0, you won't have poll. You won't have the security button. If you're not a host, you won't have a security button. So those are the two reasons why you wouldn't have a security button. You wouldn't have one in this meeting right now. I'm so sorry. I think I sort of led you astray on that one. But yeah, that's how that works. All right, so we talked about those nonverbal feedback icons. And again, at the beginning of the session, and I said, oh, share some reason why people get distracted. That was having people just chat. You guys sort of chimed in. So that was like a little bit of interaction that would draw people back in as well. Let's take a look at, this one was for the nonverbal feedback icons. I already did that one. Let's go ahead and take a look at polls. So here is a poll, and I'm actually going to do a poll, so you'll see it live, but I have it on the slides just in case. So I can set up polls in advance. I have to set up a poll in advance. And when I do, I'm going to just drag this over here to show you. When I'm ready to launch a poll during my class, I look for my poll button. It's not here, so I check more, and sure enough, there's my poll button. So I'm going to click polls. And it'll pop up and show me what polls I have available. I only have one set up for this meeting. It's this, what is your experience with Zoom poll? And so I can kind of look at it, make sure it's the one I want. You guys aren't seeing it yet on your end. I mean, you are because I'm showing you, but ordinarily students wouldn't see it. In order to let everybody see it, I click Launch Poll. So that poll is launched. You guys will start to vote. Now you'll notice as people vote, look at those blue lines on there. Those are kind of adjusting on the fly. My math heart loves that so much, to see those happening live like that. And so those are going up and down as people vote. Right here, you can see how many people have voted and what percentage of the class it is. So that way, if I want to see if people are, I can't wait forever, right? So maybe I'm using poll for a quick check of attendance at some point. I only want to do it for a little bit because if they walked away, that's what I was looking for. I wanted to make sure that they were there. So up here, I have a little timer to see how long I've been having the poll open. And then right here is that percentage, like I said. And so I let people vote or whatever. I don't know how to say this nicely. Hardly ever do you get 100%. You just don't. Like somebody walked away or somebody's just not doing it or somebody's watching TV or something. So I don't necessarily wait till I have 100%. If I give people time and I have a pretty decent, 80% or above, I'm good with that. So then down here at the bottom, I'm going to click End Poll. And when I end the poll, I get to see the results. And so those are what the results look like. And then I can choose whether to share those results. And so I'm going to go ahead and share those results so you see what that looks like. So if I click Share, it should pop up on your screen so that you can see it. And then I can talk to my students, kind of debrief it or whatever and say, look, a lot of people know, most people know enough to be dangerous. I have some competition from a couple people teaching the class. It's funny, the past 2 nights, there's been at least a couple people that said, what's Zoom? So anyway, that was probably just a joke, but you get the idea. So you can kind of debrief it or whatever. And then down here, when you're done, you can say stop share. And then that should disappear from your side when I say stop share. And then I just remind people if it doesn't disappear, that they can go ahead and just close that out or drag it to another window. I'm going to show you how to do a poll in just a second. Yep, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that right now. Exactly. Cannot wait for 100% because you just might never get there. Although, if you can say, hey guys, this is attendance. If you're not paying attention, get in here and do this, right? And that's okay. I mean, you can do that. I'm going to actually go to zoom.us, which is my, which is the Zoom. Hold on, let me find out if I'm where I want to be. There we go, I should be. That's my Penn State Zoom, which is fine. I'll just sign in from here. So I'm going to sign into my Zoom. And so here I am. I'm actually in my Zoom account now. When you land at Zoom, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. You are usually on your meetings tab. And so right here, I can tell I'm on my meetings tab. These are all my meetings right here. The way that you create polls is you have to create a meeting first, and then you create a poll. So you can't do it while you're creating the meeting. So meeting first, then poll. So I'm just going to choose at random one of my meetings here. Just going to go to another page. Let me see what I have here. Oh, here's data and teaching and learning. Let's do that one. So here's my meeting. And if I scroll down, at the very bottom, I see you have not created any polls yet. And so I'm going to go right down here. I'm going to click Add. And so this is the little screen that lets me add a poll. So somebody said before, are polls anonymous? They are not anonymous by default, but you can make them anonymous if you want to by clicking this button. Okay, so of course, if you're going to use it for attendance or something like that, or even for a short quiz, you're not going to do that. You're not going to make them anonymous or whatever. I want to put a title in for the poll because if I don't, and I have more than one poll, it'll only say poll 1, poll 2. I won't know which one's which. I'll have to open them all to find it. So give it a title that you'll know, that you'll be able to recognize. And then I'll say, what is your experience with Zoom? Now, if you're going to make an error when you're creating a poll, this is what you're going to do wrong. If I mark single choice, that means that they'll look at the list and they'll choose one. If I do multiple choice, they'll look at the list and they'll select all that apply. So usually when we think of multiple choice in education terms, we're thinking A, B, C, D, choose one. That's not what it means here. So just be careful. Choose one is single choice. Multiple choice means select all that apply. Okay, so I'm just going to go over here. What is your experience with Zoom? I'll say none, not much, a little, tons. Okay, not very scientific, but you get the idea. So I put my choices in. Now, if I want to ask more than one question at a time, I can do it just by adding another question at the very same time. If I do that, students will get 2 polls at one time. I can add up to 10 questions. So I could actually do a little 10 question little mini quiz if I wanted to, right there in Zoom. Okay. If I want to add, or if I want to do a poll, you know, at the beginning and then again at the end, I would want to do 2 separate polls for that. So what I would do is I would save this poll, and then I would go back to my add button and I would add a second poll. Okay. So if you put more questions together all at once, those are going to all be at the same time. So if you want to do it spread out, it's going to be whole separate polls. Okay. Abraham asks a great question. Could you create a poll while the meeting is in progress? Here's the trick with that. The answer used to be no, but as of yesterday, I actually have a little thing on my screen. Let me show you this. Now I don't have it whenever I'm in a Hawks meeting. I do have it when I'm in my own meeting. So it just might be that they're like I'm on a different version or whatever. But on my meeting, whenever I tried this yesterday, I had a little button here that said edit. So if I clicked edit, it let me create a poll on the fly. Now the trick is I had to have at least one poll created ahead of time, because unless you have a poll created ahead of time, you won't even have the poll button to launch it. Okay. I'm going to show you the poll results right now really quickly because we're running out of time. Hold on. So what you're going to do then, if you want the results of the poll afterwards, so say you are going to use it for a quiz, I'm going to go down here, back to my Zoom area. I'm going to go to reports. So I'm going to click reports. If you don't see add for a poll, free accounts don't have polling. It might be because you're on a free account, or it might be because you don't have polling turned on in your settings. So those 2 things, if you turn it on in your settings, then you will have the poll button. So you can ask me that in just 1 second or shoot me an email and I'll explain that. But under reports, I can go here for one, and it'll just list my meetings here. I'm going to go ahead and open up this window a little longer. This is all of June now. And so it's, isn't it? Oh, I have to click search. Whoops. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to choose a meeting here. Here's one. I'm going to click that. And so it shows me my list of attendees. Okay. And then I can choose to export that. Now let me show you something really cool. Export with meeting data. So that'll tell me what meeting it was, what time it was, and everything like that. But my favorite button, show unique users. Look right down here. I signed in twice. Maybe I signed in, then I got bumped, then I came back in. So that would show to me twice. Watch this button, show unique users. It combines them. So I was in that one, I don't know if you remember, it was 13 minutes and then 14 minutes. Well, now here I am for all 27 minutes at once. So that's super cool. It's a good way to consolidate like that. So I can click to export. I'm going to do that now. No, I'm not. I don't want to do that. I'm going to click out of that. So that was just a little bonus about attendance. What I really want to show you is the polls. So I'm going to go like that. Under meeting, I can get poll reports. All right, again, I'm going to click this poll report button. I'm going to open this up to longer time period. There we go. And then you'll see I have some polls here. All right, here's a little bit of testing I did with anonymous polls. And I'm going to go generate. And it'll like generate all these reports. So I'm going to click download. I just want to show you how this works. It's super cool. I'm going to save it. I know it takes a little bit of clicking and waiting. It opened up on my other screen. Hold on 1 second. There we go. And so this is what it looks like. So when I get my poll results, There we go. So you can see the number is in the first column. So if I had 50 people do my poll, it would be 1 through 50. It says the username. It says the user email. It says the date it was submitted. It gives whether the poll was anonymous or not anonymous, and then it gives the answer to the question. So you can download the results. You can grade a quiz like that if you want to. So lots of stuff you can do with polling. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and click out of that and say don't save. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint really quickly. Get us back on track here. There we go. Best practices for polls. You will not see polls if you don't enable them in your settings. So that's the very first thing you have to do is enable them. Then you have to create at least one poll in advance so that you have the poll button during your meeting. And then always test before your session. The reason you do that, like I said, most of the time, if there's a mistake, there hardly ever is, but if it is, it's going to be that select all versus just select one. So just keep that in mind whenever you're doing it. No. Rebecca said if the poll is not anonymous, can students see each other's? No. Anonymous means anonymous from you. You're the only one who can see poll results, the host of the meeting. Yeah, you can't, unless you would share it, but that's not what we're talking about. Yeah, no, they don't see each other's in any way. So that's a good option for that kind of stuff. So that is about it. Just one more tiny slide here. So what we talked about before, you can use polling to do kind of knowledge checks, gather a little bit of data. Maybe you want to know, the people are what year are they? Are they freshmen? Are they seniors? Are they sophomores? Whatever it is. So you could do something like that with a poll. But again, you can do a lot of that stuff on the fly with those nonverbal feedback icons too. So don't forget about those. And then that's about it, people. Click. That is it. So here's the deal. You should be able to manage your students to promote learning during virtual class meetings. Hopefully this helped you with some strategies, some things to think about. The rule of thumb is every 5 minutes. You want to have something to sort of draw them back in. Sometimes it might be chat. Sometimes it might be a nonverbal feedback icon, just anything like that. So just keep that in mind. You want to be able to deal with common tech issues. That tip for sound, that's mostly what you're going to need. You know some Zoom tools now, and then hopefully you have some best practices too. So I appreciate you guys so much. I'm going to put my email in chat. It's easy. It's just my first name. So just Lea@psu.edu. Feel free if there's anything we didn't get to use that, and I will get back to you. I saw one more question. Quick, did you see us while you share your screen? I saw you while I was sharing your screen, but this is why. It's because I have two screen sharing, 2 monitors. So watch this. I'm going to go new share. And so this time, instead of choosing the monitor I have, I'm going to choose my other monitor, and I'm going to share that. And so now you can see my other monitor where I kind of arrange things. So I have my little Zoom window here. I have my PowerPoint presenter thingy. I have my participants panel and so forth. And then I have like notes and things over here. So anyway, that's how I do it. If you only have one monitor, you can still do it. You just have to be a little bit craftier. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. I probably should have just switched sharing, but anyway. Yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. It's totally fine.
All right, well, thank you so much for this evening, Professor Rosenberry. Thank all of you who attended tonight. This was really informative. I personally even learned a lot myself. If you guys have any questions, again, she put her email in the chat, and feel free to reach out to us at Hawks as well. Our email would be marketing@hawkslearning.com. We will be emailing you a link to view this webinar on demand tomorrow, along with your certificates. You can view it as well as past webinars on our blog at blog.hawkslearning.com. Thanks again for coming, everyone. Thank you again, Professor Rosenberry. Hope you all have a great evening.
Sign up for next week.
Yes, sign up for next week.
Look for that on Monday. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.